Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Witchy Wednesday. It's Courtney and Sunshine here, and we are very excited about this episode, which is almost going to be a preface to our next episode, which is a really big one we're working up to next month. For Witchy Wednesday this week, we thought we'd give you a talk about what kind of witch you may want to be and chat with you about some of the options, some of the spells, some of the things you may like. And why is this so important to talk about right now? Well, next month we're getting ready for midsummer and we're getting ready for that solstice celebration. And that will be a great time to let your magic sort of have a front seat in your life, and we want to make sure that you're ready for that moment and that feast day. So we know there's a lot of talk around what types of witches there are. How do you pick what type of witch you want to be? Is there a wrong way? Is there a right way? I have often felt, and Sunshine and I were just having a lovely conversation about this, that a lot of people sort of gravitate toward the witchcraft of their ancestors.
Yes.
So we often find that we're drawn to the generations before us, this type of magic and deities that they may have gone to. For that reason, you know, being Irish and Scottish, and Sunshine being Scottish, we have a lot of, Celtic, Scottish, Irish influences that we gravitate towards.
Yes.
So we go towards them and the Norse pagans and those deities who influenced the Celts for obvious reasons. And that's why you see us doing the turning of the wheel and things like that. But within every type of witchcraft, no matter whether you're Irish, Italian, Jamaican,
yes,
no matter French, no matter where you come from and where your ancestors come from, there is magic to be had everywhere. And we've even talked about Egyptian gods and goddesses before, Greek, Roman. There's magic in all our ancestry. But what do you want to do with it? Do you want to be a green witch? Do you want to maybe a garden, such as a beautiful garden like this, and grow herbs that can be used as medicine and healing? Would you prefer to be a kitchen witch and really get familiar with all of your cooking ingredients and bake things that have a magical power? Would you rather work with water and do things that way and cast spells and collect water through that method? Maybe it will have something to do with your astrological sign.
Right.
Or maybe you want to be a blend of things. Maybe you want to combine different types of magic. So I'm going to turn it over to Sunshine, who's going to tell you a little bit about the types of witches you may be, regardless of your ancestry. You can find where it fits best, and some of the, I guess, most popular spells that some of them may have.
A few spells.
Yes.
I don't want to give too much away and get in trouble. So if you're going to decide to follow the path of witchcraft in any way at all, our number one rule is, be it harm none, do what thou wilt. So what does that mean? That means all of the spells that you need to do have to be positive in nature. And that's what makes you a good witch, okay? So first of all, try to be a good witch and responsible. That's the first thing. There's so many different types of witchcraft that are based on where you were born or what nationality that you are. For example, if you're from Scotland or England, a lot of the times we are still working with our ancient deities from the Celtic and the Norse gods and goddesses, and we're also following those traditions, which feels familiar to both of us because we are from that region in our ancestry. I personally also really enjoy the witchcraft of the Latinos and Latinas. This is also a type of witchcraft that was created around the idea of Catholicism and using different entities to hide within those statues. So there you have a blend of Catholic tradition along with like an African-American native paganism tradition.
No, I'm liking this because I was raised Irish Catholic, and a lot of Irish people are going, yes, yes, me too.
Right. So I like all different types of magic. I would call myself an eclectic witch, but I'm trained in a lot of different sorts of magic. So there is the typical Irish, Scottish, English, where you think of Harry Potter and castles. That's a type of witchcraft.
Very druid kind of in its
be
practice.
Drawn to that. That would involve runes and standing stones, perhaps, and definitely always celebrating the turning of the wheel. There's also a type of witchcraft that's very popular in Greece, and this is very interesting to me because I have never met so many different witches all cursing each other all the time. If you are from Greece, you may have a sister or an aunt that made you angry, so then you curse them. And then they come to someone like me to say, my sister cursed me. And I say, oh no, really? And it turns out that they all curse each other all the time and have the curses removed all the time.
So can you maybe explain what you mean by a curse? How can you curse someone?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so a curse would be very much the same as doing a regular magic spell, only you would fill it with bad intentions.
Right.
You would say terrible things about the person because they made you angry, and it would get you revenge, allegedly. I learned about this type of witchcraft when I did live in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where there was a large population of Greek people, and I had a few different ladies, all from the same family, that would come to see me periodically to remove their curses.
Would you say then, if part of it's by our intention, we have to be really careful with what thoughts we allow into our own headspace, because is it possible to inadvertently curse somebody?
I don't think it's possible to inadvertently do it. I think you must really focus on doing it. Just like if you want regular other magic to work, you've got to focus it and help it along energetically.
But it's still important to be aware of what thoughts are in your head.
You don't want to do any good magic when you're in a bad mood.
Right.
You don't want to do it when you've had too much alcohol, because then you might start to think the bad negative things, right? So there's all different types. One very popular type of witch is called strega, a strega witch. Some people have heard the word strega nona, right?
Yes, I've heard that myself.
Right.
Yes.
Strega is the word witch for Italian witches. And there's a tradition in Italian witchcraft where the grandmother of the home will teach their youngest granddaughter how to scry into oil in a pan with water.
We've done scrying.
But only on Christmas Eve.
Oh, I like that.
And it's kind of a tradition. So that is something I always thought was really nice. What a great thing to do with your family.
Yeah.
And the idea was to see in the oil, which is scrying, as you're looking into something, kind of trancing out, and you see pictures or you hear words. And the scrying was intended to see what was going to happen for the family for the year.
I actually can't help but think, while you're talking about this, there's a book that I was read all the time as a child from my mother, and I just got it for my niece, and it's called Thunder Cake. And it's all about the strega nona teaching her granddaughter to get all these ingredients to bake the cake in the storm. And then when I was a kid, I never thought about how that's really just infusing the electric magic of the storm into this cake.
Yes.
And that's, the whole lesson in this childhood book. And I really loved that. Just listening to you talk, I immediately thought of that book.
Well, that's also part of kitchen witchery as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kitchen witchery is taking food items and using them together to bring about love, or not revenge. No revenge. Just love, success, protection, celebration of some sort. The kitchen witch will sometimes even, on her wooden spoon, write a magical symbol, like a rune or any kind of, like if you're trying to have a baby, maybe a fertility symbol, and then you stir that mixture that you're going to be making into a cake, which spells are kind of like baking cakes for real.
Yeah.
You have to do it in the right order with the right ingredients. And you can use this symbol to start to put that energy in there, and then you don't ever use that spoon for anything else. When you're using magical items, in fact, especially for me, I like to do a lot of candle magic. I was taught how to set candles, and I love doing it. And I usually put one of my candles on a ceramic plate, and the candle goes there, and it serves as a little altar around it inside of my home. When I'm done with the candle, I'm also done with the plate, and I break it.
I like that, too.
Yes.
Now, I have a question for you about the kitchen witches.
Yes.
So we did We did bread baking.
Yes.
Last Witchy Wednesday
For
Beltane. But there's, bread baking for Ostara and all these sort of feast days. Is bread a common sort of good for the kitchen witch to create?
Yes. I think the bread is very much associated with life, living, and gives you nourishment and strength. So bread was very important in the olden days, and so it's also important now.
Right.
I think it's important to actually bake your own bread if you're going to use it for magic, because what kind of magic could be in a loaf of bread from the supermarket? Not enough energy.
Right.
Really, all that witchcraft is really about is about focusing energy with good intent. There's also the green witches. We talked about the forest witches a little bit, and those witches really enjoy the solitude of nature, and their church is nature. It's their church, and they're not hurting anyone. Most people think of witches as being old, ugly, scary, and having a vendetta of some kind and riding around on a broom, when actually mostly witchcraft is about meditation, gathering proper ingredients, and being able to memorize the specific spell for what you want to achieve.
It seems a lot to me a combination of honoring your ancestors and manifesting, you know, your best version of yourself in your dreams.
Exactly.
So as long as, like you said, you're doing these things not at the expense of someone else, you know, which is very Machiavellian, right? But if you're doing this with, like, by treating yourself well, you're not harming anyone else.
Exactly.
Then that's what makes it more powerful.
Right, and that is one of the rules in witchcraft. As long as you're not hurting anyone, do whatever you want.
Right.
There are some witches who also say this, though: there are no rules in witchcraft.
Right.
And that's kind of dangerous in my opinion. However, I would just call that type of witch a chaos witch and back away. I'm good.
Yes.
I've got my boundaries.
And if you have your boundaries, then it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing, because you're able to really effectively close them up. But boundaries are hard.
Right, they can be. So there's just one spell I wanted to talk about since we're coming off of some of our COVID restrictions.
Oh yes, please.
Okay, so we're getting back to normal a little, right? Having our COVID restrictions lifted a little bit here, a lot more, really.
Yeah, and also this Witchy Wednesday filming in Connecticut, it is the release of the mask mandate. So that, you know, was a sign of normalcy returning to us.
So some of you might be having parties and you're not used to it. And there might be party guests who aren't used to being at the party, and maybe they want to stay too long. So I'm going to give you a very simple magic spell that I think actually originated from Strega, because the spell is this: if you have an unwanted party guest who's staying way too long and you're too polite to ask them to leave, you take a broom and you put it so the brush is up, you sprinkle cinnamon across the top, and you just leave it in the corner. And it's amazing. That person will become uncomfortable, itchy, even itchy, and they will leave. It's amazing. Then you can still use that broom for cleaning. In fact, that was also part of the idea of using a cinnamon broom, was that by using the cinnamon on top, you're driving the bad spirits out of your home.
It's gotta be hard not to laugh when they start itching.
It's really funny. It really works. So it's also a way to, I believe that it came from Strega, that you could use the cinnamon broom to clean your home, to also keep it clean from other spirits. And it is also a tradition in Wiccan. So those two sometimes overlap quite a bit.
Now, you were telling me another thing too, and I think this kind of goes along the same lines. We were talking about setting boundaries and how that can be hard. And now we're inviting people over and we're starting to socialize again, which is wonderful, but also a lot of us have been, you know, keeping to a small bubble, right? So all of that being said, you might have people that start to really want to be around you more and you don't want them around.
Right.
What do? You were telling me there's a way to make sure that you kind of break that bond and keep that boundary set for yourself.
Right.
What do you do?
So this is a way to make somebody who is bothering you chill out. And that's why I call it the chill out spell. This is actually a Jamaican spell. And I'm going to kind of Americanize it a little bit, just to simplify it, because it's too complicated otherwise.
And it's really about the power of intent, so it's okay to do that. Yes.
And you're not hurting this person in any way. So here's the spell. You get some parchment paper and you write the name of the person 3 times in red ink. And then you place that piece of paper folded 3 times into an envelope. You seal the envelope with your own mouth. That's important. And then you write their name on the outside of the envelope, and as you put it into the freezer, you say the name of the person and chill out. And that's it. and you don't have to worry about anything. And really weirdly, most of the time that you do this, those people will leave you alone.
I think I have some people I'm gonna have
I
to do
know,
that for.
freezer them.
Freezer them.
It's
chill out method.
It's a chill out method. It doesn't hurt your stalker in any way. It just makes them stop wanting to be around you so much.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. So as we get out and socialize and get excited, we also still have our healthy boundaries and we're still doing good things with each other, which I absolutely love. So we want for you guys to take this next month and really, if you are, following us on Witchy Wednesdays, start to discern what type of witchcraft you may want to practice. And you don't have to practice witchcraft at the expense of any other faith or practice that you have.
Not at all.
It can be in addition to, and I think that that's a really common thing is people always go, are you a witch? I thought you were raised Catholic. You can identify
you can
as
be
both
all.
and embrace the magic of all your ancestors.
Yes.
And they're not mutually exclusive of each other.
They won't get mad at each other.
No,
basically. And it's a way as well to feel comfortable knowing that you're mixing both.
Yeah, you're honoring everyone, your most ancient ancestors, and then those that raised you and what you know.
Yeah.
And so take this time as we get to midsummer, which is, the celebration of the light, and start to discern what type of witchcraft attracts you. Do you feel comfortable in the kitchen, in the gardens, by the water? Where do you feel most centered? And channel the energy that the earth is giving you in those places. And figure out, is there a deity who just really inspires you, or a story that does? Maybe that's a great god or goddess to sort of keep in mind as you get through the midsummer, that's going to help you achieve your goals as we get into this really bright season. So take this time to reflect on yourself and those who came before. And it's also important, we're entering Mercury retrograde soon.
No.
I know, but it's going to lift by midsummer, so this is a good time to look to the past, right? And figure out where we're going.
That's what it's for.
This Witchy Wednesday is almost a getting ready session, and we hope you've enjoyed it. You found a few spells out from Sunshine that you can try out, but look inward, meditate, and we hope that you have a wonderful next end of spring, beginning of summer, and we'll be chatting with you next week for Cemetery Saturday.